The airplane hummed with the faint, steady roar of its engines as it cut through the bright morning sky, leaving a trail of thin clouds behind it. Marissa Vale, CEO of Vale Industries, sat rigidly in 12A, her designer heels digging into the small space in front of her. She was exhausted, both from the endless board meetings she had barely survived and from the flight that promised nothing but uncomfortable economy seating. She closed her eyes for what she intended to be a brief escape, just a moment of reprieve. But exhaustion, she soon realized, had a way of disarming even the most disciplined. The moment her head tilted to the side, a soft, hesitant weight brushed against her shoulder. In a blink, she realized, too late, that she had leaned against the man next to her. A stranger. His warmth, the subtle scent of worn leather and the faint trace of coffee, jolted her awake. She recoiled, instinctively stiffening, but the man didn't pull away. Instead, he smiled gently, a kind of quiet acknowledgement that said, "It's okay, you're safe." Before she could apologize, a sudden lurch of turbulence sent the cabin into a slight panic. People gripped armrests and murmured anxiously, but the man's hand found hers for just a moment, just a small gesture, but it grounded her. Her heart raced not from fear but from the strange, unexpected comfort it brought. And in that fleeting moment, she noticed something in him she wasn't prepared for, fatigue that ran deeper than her own, a silent story hidden in his weary eyes. If you believe in kindness and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Stories of Kindness. You never know whose life you might touch today. His name was Elias Rourke, a single father with a small, curly-haired boy named Jamie, who was fast asleep in his lap. Marissa studied them discreetly, her curiosity overcoming the initial embarrassment. There was a carefulness in how he adjusted the blanket over Jamie, the soft way he whispered assurances that only a father could muster. It was clear this wasn't the first time he had traveled alone with his son, and every detail of his patience spoke volumes. Marissa felt an unexpected pang in her chest. She had always believed that running a company meant controlling everything, the schedules, the decisions, the outcomes. But here, in this cramped, impersonal airplane cabin, she witnessed a type of control that she couldn't buy or command, the kind that existed in the unspoken bonds of care, sacrifice, and quiet devotion. Elias was carrying a burden heavier than any quarterly report, and yet he carried it with dignity. Hours passed slowly. Marissa tried to read, tried to distract herself, but her eyes kept drifting toward Elias and Jamie. She noticed the small details, a crooked superhero sticker on the armrest, the way Jamie's little hand occasionally twitched as he dreamed, the tired lines etched into Elias's face. She wanted to know his story, but social norms, and her own hesitation, held her back. Yet she couldn't shake the thought that some invisible thread had connected them during that accidental shoulder lean. Then, midway through the flight, an announcement over the intercom turned the atmosphere tense. A medical emergency had arisen in another section of the plane. The cabin crew needed volunteers to assist, and without thinking, Elias rose immediately, carefully balancing Jamie in his arms. Marissa's heart skipped. Here was a man who, despite the obvious fatigue, put the needs of others above his own. Without hesitation, he offered help, leaving his son in the gentle care of a flight attendant who assured him Jamie would be fine. Something inside Marissa shifted. She realized that all her life, she had measured success in terms of power and prestige, bonuses and accolades, without recognizing the true weight of responsibility. Elias's quiet courage struck a chord deep within her, a mirror she had never wanted to look into until now. She watched him move with purpose, every action deliberate, calm, and compassionate, and she wondered if she could ever emulate that kind of selflessness in her own life. Hours melted into a surreal blur. When the turbulence settled and the emergency concluded with a successful outcome, Elias returned, his uniform suit now slightly wrinkled, his eyes more tired than before. Jamie stirred and reached out for him, and Marissa noticed the instant softening in Elias's gaze. In that private exchange, the entire world seemed to vanish, the only reality was the bond between father and child. Marissa's mind wandered back to the beginning of the flight, to that accidental lean, to the brief connection of warmth and trust. She had come on this trip expecting nothing but logistical hurdles and professional monotony. Instead, she had stumbled into something profoundly human, a reminder of empathy, courage, and resilience. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, an emotion she rarely allowed herself to feel outside the boardroom. By the time the plane began its descent, Marissa found herself grappling with an unfamiliar sense of hesitation. Should she speak to him? Should she acknowledge the accidental intimacy of a mere shoulder touch that had led to so much unspoken understanding? Finally, as the captain's voice welcomed them to the city, she gathered her courage. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice hesitant. Elias turned, offering a kind, patient smile. I wanted to thank you. For everything." Her words faltered, inadequate for the weight of gratitude she felt. Elias blinked, clearly surprised, but his smile deepened, warm and genuine. "You don't have to," he said. "We all do what we must." Marissa nodded, unsure what else to say. She glanced at Jamie, who was clutching a small, worn toy car, and felt a lump in her throat. Something about witnessing a love so raw and protective struck her profoundly. She realized that this encounter, brief as it was, had shifted her perspective, not only on success but on the life she wanted to lead. Once they landed, the chaos of disembarkation surrounded them, yet Marissa found herself walking beside Elias, as if some invisible gravity had drawn her close. She wanted to do more than offer thanks. She wanted to understand, to be part of the resilience she had witnessed. Yet social boundaries and the unspoken rules of strangers made her pause. Elias noticed, however, and gave her a subtle nod, an invitation to step into the shared moment.